welcome to the Galen Hour. This is episode 3 of season 3 of the Galen Hour. We have been doing what we call a series of episodes that focuses on Cayo, Belmopan, and now Belize City. The Galen Hour is a production of Galen University. It focuses on academic excellence, sustainable development, and lifelong learning. We've had 2 fantastic guests on show with us for the past 2 shows, and we have both Don Hector and Joe Awe again with us this evening to complete this series. It is a fantastic history of our people. I will introduce Don Hector and Joe again once we take our first break, but welcome to the Galen Hour. I am your host, Diana Gomez Perry-Feet, and it's a pleasure to be here with you every Wednesday night on the Galen Hour.
I chose Galen because of its strong reputation.
Great scholarships.
I came because I can take all my classes online.
It is what I need to take me where I want to go.
To learn more about our various programs, visit our website at www.galen.edu.bz or email us at admissions@galen.edu.bz.
And come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. We have with us tonight Don Hector Silva, who we know is a walking history book. He tells us the part of our Belize history that is not written anywhere. Welcome back for this 3rd episode, Don Hector.
Good night.
We also have with us Joe Awe, who is a lecturer in the social sciences and the co-host for these past 3 shows, the past 2 and tonight's show. And he's a perfect fit. He also hails from the Cayo district. Welcome to tonight's show. I'm Joe Awe.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us again, Belize and viewing audience. We are really pleased that we chose to focus on Belize and the history of Belize. Some of the things that we've been learning in these shows are really things that we would not have known. We have a gem in Don Hector, and we are very pleased that he has agreed to be our main guest for these shows. Don Hector has so much history to share, and he has been doing that for these past 3 shows. Don Hector, we left off last week and left out a few important topics about our rivers, about where our waters come from, about our mahogany log contractors. And I'd like to pick up there and have you start us on this journey from Belmopan to Belize, but fill us in before we start to look at the villages between our 2 cities.
Thank you, Diana. Joe, James, we are here together again. We are here projecting what Belize is and what we have been told long ago. Let's go at the Belize Old River. Belize Old River. That's the rightful name. Not the Belize River. And because that river served 4 civilizations, perhaps one of the only rivers in the world that served 4 civilizations. I was trying to find out if South America had one or the United States. No. This Belize Old River served first the Maya. That was their main route, hence Ruta Maya. It began from Bacalar into the Belize River through New River, Rio Hondo, and then entered through the Belize Old River at Lemonal, came up to Tipu, so the Maya civilization. The second civilization was the Spaniards. When the Spaniards were trying to conquer territory and to conquer the Mayas, this river was the one that they used. From Bacalar, where all those priests like Fuensalida and Bishop Landa and all those priests that came with the cross in their hand and the conquistadors with the sword in their hand, they used the Belize River. That is the second civilization. In came the British, and they used river to exploit our mahogany, to exploit our chicle.
Wow.
And then came the Belize civilization, which is we. We are now using that, or we have been using that, especially for the farmers, then the fishermen, then no tourism. I am seeing the Belize River that be one of the main features in tourism. I tore down the Belize River, and I have composed a song for that, Hydro. I have composed a beautiful song that I gave it to Joe Moreno. We're going to try to get it about the journey down the Belize River. So 4 civilizations. I stop at that.
Indeed.
The Belize River divides Belize in 2. Almost if you weigh them. Look at the map. If you weigh the southern part of Belize and then I think they weigh equal. That's another feature of the Belize River. Now the Belize River was fed by a giant water reservoir that Belize has under the belly of the Maya Mountain. People don't know that. But Dr. Magoon in 1934 was sent by the British to make study. And he traversed the whole area. And he said, Belize has sufficient water to eventually export water to the Department of El Petén that is dry, and the Department of Quintana Roo, which is also dry. And that area, Yucatan, was flattened by an asteroid millions of years ago. So so Belize has an amount of water. And who feed us? You have beautiful names, like for example, you have the old Wacamayo River. Then you have also the Rio On, tourism, the Privación, the Oakburn, the Little Vaqueros, the Rio Frio, where the water is cold. You know that the water is always cold there. And then you had the Mahogany Creek and other small rivulets that actually feed the Macal River on its source. After you leave the Macal River, it meets with the Mopan, which is a branch of the Chiquibul River that is inside Belize, enters under the border of Guatemala, comes out in Petén by Resumidero, and it comes back and enters into Belize by exactly Garbot Falls Monument. Right there is where that river enters again. So it's a story that should be told to every student. That river, the Belize River, has a tremendous history. But we leave it at that. The Belize River has food. In the past, had food to feed all the villages. Fish, turtle, bocotora, guana, tepesquinte. Right by the riverside, the men used to go on the Adori, Hamadili, and name it, right down the Belize River. But of course, it has depleted. Now we leave at that. Now, who are those men that built the huge, giant mahogany industry? And here they are. Belize State. In 18-something they came in. Henry Gabriel, Austin Gabriel, Herbert Hillock, William Wiley, Dan Davis, well, we knew Dan Davis, Robert Sidney Turton, W.A. Robertson, Francisco Asensio, Jose Romada, Pascual Corral, Richard Dickey Woods, Richard Dugard, William Holtz, Alvaro Habet, Ben Stewart, Jabos James, Charles Walter, Adolfo Perez, Jose Aguilar, Albert Codd, William Codd, James C. Holtz, Morgan Holtz, the old man, the very old man, Zenaida Casasola, Emilio Aue, Jorge Espat, Jorge Valles, Manuel Ancona, Louis M. Sylvester, the old man, calls Papa, L.H. Pierce, Charles Zia, Jose Padron. Look how many contractors were here. So this was a tremendous industry. We only think about one few logs. No, the rivers. We used to walk across the river from log to log to log. We took a damn bloody chance, but we that was our pleasure. When the river flooded, the river was full with logs. So we jumped from log to log, crash and laughing and everything, not knowing that if we slip in one of those, that's the end. Good. So that is more or less the life of the famous Belize Old River. So now, Joe,
Very
hit the button.
Well, that's some good information there. I appreciate that a lot. I'm sure our visiting audience to our site are enjoying this. Now, Hector, it is quite imperative that we try to figure out what was the influence of the old capital Belize City on the new capital Belmopan. I am thinking that a lot of people may have started to feel a little anxiety who were in the political arena, moving the political capital away from the old capital, which is today Belize City, to Belmopan.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the influence of the old capital on the new one based on the politics of the day?
Yeah. I will quote Bishop, an Anglican bishop who said just after Hurricane Hattie, he said, Hurricane Hattie was a blessing in disguise. I'm quoting his words. A blessing in disguise. People say, but why is 200 people got dead? He said, no, that's the sad part. But the removal of Belmopan, of the capital city to Belmopan, brought a second life to old Belize City. Belize had nowhere to go. You stay there, 1931 hurricane, 2,000 people, and there was not such a population. If we would have right now a category 5 hurricane or 6, don't ask me the amount of people that would perish. I know Belize City like my fingers. And when you say Genocha Boulevard, you go to behind the complex, you go to all these places, man, it is a disaster to happen with a major hurricane. So what has been happening, I noticed, since 61, people come by the hundreds and thousands up to the country, to Belmopan, Camalote, Roaring Creek. I tell you, San Ignacio, man, all these centers, they're full of novella convention, full of set, full of Sacred Heart College, full of. So, and we have not had a big hurricane. So I am only mentioning that Belize City right now has at least a second arm or a third arm. Now, the influence, Belize City will remain the New York of Belize. That will never change. That will be New York. Belmopan is the Washington. Now, Washington does not take away much from New York. And Belmopan cannot take away from Belize City. Belize City will remain the hub of tourist entrance, of so many things. So I think it's a complementary. Belmopan is a complement to Belize City because Belize City cannot expand more. It's expensive. Imagine, you want a house lot right now around Halova, you better have 100,000 or 80,000. That is tremendous. So as I am saying that what they have to do is needs more coordination. I do not like this what you call I do not like administration by remote control. I think we have to decentralize this thing more, and then I think we can live with it. And other communities are coming. Mahagani Heights is coming in there. Democracia has come in there. Camalote, Bivadam. I noticed that whole area is being built. And I believe that the influence was the removal or the building of Belmopan. May I just clear a little point because I have been asked this. Why did they name the airstrip the Hector Silva, man? Why? Did they move on Hector Silva airstrip? Why? Well, I did not ask it. I did not beg for it. It was the governor, Governor Posnet, and Mr. Price had a discussion when they were going to build that. Oh, they had built it already. To be the airport, if when the Belize City airport cannot function because of a hurricane. This airport was built as a complement of the bigger, because they tried out with a huge Hercules plane. I have the pictures. A huge Hercules plane landed there to see that we can take a jumbo jet and everything in that same little airstrip that was sitting. But it was named, they tell me, because I was one of the pioneers, you know. I entered that bush, one of the first ministers to enter the bush. I was one of the directors, the only living director of Recondev. And I played a role there, my ministry put electricity, water, and some of the access roads, and built the first 78 houses. So they had that discussion, and so Mr. Price called me and said, you know what? He said, we have decided to name the landing place. I know. So, well, on behalf of the people, I accepted people that I saw. So I close my page there. Good. So we go now to the influence that you asked me about Belmopan. Yes, Belmopan played a big role, not only for Belize City, for the whole country. When you go and see the people that are in Belmopan, it's actually a cosmopolitan city. Corozaleños, Orinduac, Bilbes, Dangriga, the mayor is a Garifuna. You have, well, it's a mosaic of people composed Belmopan. Bel for Belize, Mopan for the Maya tribe that lived there many years before us. So, Joe.
All right, very good. Thank you. When Belmopan, the transition from the old capital to the now new capital, which is Belmopan, when that happened in 1973, a few things happened in the same year. I'm not sure if at the same time, but one of them was the name British Honduras was forever put in the back seat of history, Belizean history, and the country became Belize. And then the birth of the United Democratic Party. And it's important, I believe, at this juncture to touch this because they have proven to be a political force in the country, made up of smaller parties and eventually amalgamating to what is now the UDP. Tell us a little bit about that, since you have been inside the political air at that time.
I was a member of the House Constitutional Committee at that time, 1973. So the time came when a name should be given to the colony, because we were already moving, remember 64 self-government. A self-governed country cannot be a colony. A colony is when it is fully ruled by mother country. So we had to find a name. Mr. Price said these words: we cannot call it Honduras. There's already a Honduras. We cannot call it British because we are not British. Let's find a name. And the names, they start to fly. And, well, so many names, Berlin, that, this, that, the other, okay. So now, the name Belize came with its explanations, that it means walking from the west towards the rising sun. That was one of them. And there were evidences that way back 200 years, the settlement of Belize in the Bay of Honduras. That was already being told to us, that Belize meant something. No Wallis, no. It was because the name was there. I don't know if it came from that place in Africa that named Belize? I don't know. Or Belisao, where the Garifunas were taken when they were dispossessed from St. Vincent. There's an island where they took name Belisao. Or whether it meant Balsa, where the French that settled here, there were a lot of French around our coast. They used to use Balsa to travel, which is a raft. No? So whatever it was, but the name Belize. But let us go back a little bit. 1968, the British sent here one of their top ministers named John Profumo. Now, this is relative to what we are talking about. John Profumo came here to see if they can amalgamate all the political parties, including Belize, into a front called United Front Against Guatemala. We were invited. So, we told Profumo that we would meet him as a party, not as a united with anybody else. So it was agreed. We went. I was one of the delegates. We sat with him and we told him about the aspirations of the POP, the Movement of Independence, to eventually become independent. And we had our own agenda. So we met him, quite good. Then he brought in the other 4 smaller groups, which was HP, Harvard Fuller, and HIP, Richardson Goldson. Then there was an NIP, National Independence Party. And then there was Mr. Pollard had a party named the ALP, Democratic and Labour Party. So 4 parties groups were invited by Mr. John Profumo, and they got together and they decided to form the United Democratic Party. So when we had that meeting, public meeting, to change the name British Honduras to Belize, we had several people who were invited to come and give their opinion, their whatever. And so among them, 3 senators came to us. Senator Simeon Hasek, Senator Bonting Fula, and Senator, forget the other, Flowers, I think was his name. And they said that they did not like the name Belize. One of their reasons was that it sounded too close to the Guatemalan Belize. That was their argument. We respected it. But eventually we decided that there was no strength in the proposals that were brought. You know, they had all kind of names that they wanted for the country. But it did not fit in with what actually this nation was to be. And Belize had a lot of references. If you find some old maps on the earth, you see Belize with Z, Belize. Then others come with the different, but there is that notion that this place way back comes with that idea of a Belize, whatever. So it was changed. We went to the assembly and we had a practically unanimous vote. And so the country became Belize. So that is the history in brief. You know, I'm giving you everything in brief.
Thank you, Don Hector.
Yes.
So I want to jump in at this point, and we will take, this is just such fantastic information. I mean, we've always heard lots of different stories about the name Belize and how it came about. I know the history of Belize by Norda Dobson, which I don't know that anybody necessarily uses anymore. Certainly talks about the Wallis, Belize, and that's certainly a theory that has been refuted, and I don't think any of us really hold that to be the reason why Belize is named Belize. Quite a beautiful name, though,
yes,
for a country and a people. So I'd like to take a short break at this point, and we'll come right back with the second segment of the Galen Hour. Stay tuned.
The Galen Eagle Podcast every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Catch us live on Galen University's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and select radio stations.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. We're having quite an interesting conversation with Don Hector and Joawe. And what really stands out, well, lots of things stand out, but our rivers are really a foundation and a pillar to our society. We want to come back in this second segment and talk about the rivers again, but look at our villages along the river leading from Belmopan to Belize City. So Don Hector and Joawe, I turn over the hosting to you, Joe, so we can hear a bit more about what's going on. We've heard so much from Cayo to Belmopan. We've heard about Belmopan, and we know about our water source and how important it is and how many civilizations it has fed over the years. And we now want to look from Belmopan moving to the old capital, Belize City. Joe?
Okay, thank you. Don Hector, if I'm not mistaken, and you can feel free to correct me here, our first Western highway, now the George Wright Highway, was the construction started in 1947. If I'm not mistaken, by 1954, we get a better highway. But what about the river? Was it still in use, per se, for the transportation to and from the west to the east and back? Tell us about transportation between, say, for example, 1947 to 64.
Okay. In 1947, there was the need to open a rough road, 47, to bring in that famous Hacks Bridge in pieces. So a road was opened on the old Belize Cayo Road, where Elston Carr was the first bicycle rider on our two here, Cyril Simmons, and his brother, Paulie Neal, were the first to ride bicycle from San Ignacio to Belize through that old road that passed behind Roaring Creek. There was an old little bridge here. I think pieces are still there. That was the road to Belize City, and it enters into Injuac, Melado, and then it goes through Mount Pleasant, then it enters behind Nevadile, and then it goes into Motomaru through Tanish Creek. From Motomaru, it enters by Beaver Dam, then it cuts across into Rockville. From Rockville, it cuts across and it goes south of present Borden Canal. There was they call it a hammock bridge, right behind where Sna Beach. Well, you all are too young for remember Sna Beach, but there was that old road passed behind the present Borden Canal. That was the road. So they opened that road to be able to bring that heavy cargo. Remember, it was huge. The boats couldn't bring those big, mighty pieces of iron there. So it was open, rough road. 1947, the British decided that they were going to try to rectify those unnecessary curves, and they began to align the road to pass in front of Rockville up to around Hattieville. There was a swamp between Belize City and Hattieville. There's still that swamp there. So they brought in a famous engineer, retired war veteran named Major Tad, engineer. And he break loose that road from Cemetery, Belize City Cemetery, passing through Borden Canal. Then Major Tad built a road on top of a swamp. That engineer right now want to know how that man did it. He built a road that lasted there 50 years without having to be repaired. Major Tad. After he built it, he used to go every morning with a big raincoat, flask of whiskey, and a little stick, go see how the road look. That is the story of how road was transitioned from the old bicycle road, I call it bicycle road, down to the road that Major Tad built, and then it was realigned on several places. We kept up. I did a long realignment when I was minister, from Rockville down to Democracia, but there was a road to the back. So now the road there, but in those days, our road up to 64, our road was gravel road. From San Ignacio to Belize, there was gravel road with some things that they used to call passing bay. So that if you see a truck coming over yonder, you get into that passing bay so the truck will pass. You can't pass. So it was quite interesting, of course, we used to take 4 hours to reach him. To reach San Ignacio. Today we make it in 1 hour and 20 minutes. But that was more or less the history of how that road was aligned. Now, the boat stopped in 1949, more or less. I think Minerva was the last boat to come to San Ignacio, and farewell, they gone. The transport. First 2 adventurers on that route was Mr. Cyril Simmons and Mr. Denton Coleman. It is Coleman Daddy. They had the first 2 trucks. Passenger, cargo, and cow and pig inside. Yes, you sit down, 2 benches for passengers, the other one for the cargo and the cow to the back. 2 people. And there it was. You go down to Belize City happily and you come back, smell whatever you smell. But that was the transport that we had. When I went to college, I had to go in early 1950. That's where I thought I was going to put me pretty close. No, man. You and them were road, and that was it. Then came other people like Valdez, like Lobos, like Mr. Juan, Mr. Eduardo Juan, and they started bringing trucks. Eventually, Mr. Kaling Habet entered a truck there that was more passenger, driven by Eddie Castañedes. And so the eventually Batty bus service started to come in with their long bus. Will it arrive? They used to say, will it arrive? And then, and so from there, Chaparro, a very, very historical man. Varela just died about a month ago. Famous man, he had a club. And he brought a bus and he put some, horn like the deer, no? And so that was the bus that became very famous, Chaparro bus. Say, what time Chaparro going? I'm going with Chaparro bus. And so, so that was more like, in fact, he sponsored the champion of the country orchestra, Los Atlánticos, defeated all the best orchestras from Belize. Chaparro was the sponsor. Only mention this for little tidbits, in the history of Belize. So now, so they took over, and the buses began to come, little by little. And the road in 1964, we became self-governed. When we were able to do things for the country. And so we began to improve on the road. Benqueviejo road was terrible over there. In dry weather, we had to wait until our truck passed because the cloud and dust was terrible. But we began to widen it. I have pictures of all what I'm telling you. I have pictures of everything. And so that is more or less, Joe, how the transport evolved to what we have today. The boat seized in 1940, I would say 1949. And then from there, the trucks, they used to call it truck, no? Some the British used to call it lorries. The trucks took over cargo, passenger, and animals. And the trucks began to multiply, So we went too hard. It was hard times. I mean, it was not an easy thing to travel. But it was the best way because you go the morning and you come back the evening. While the boat, you had to go 3 days down or 4, and you take 7 days to come back.
I was going to ask why they got rid of the boats completely, but you just answered my question on Hector. The length of time it took to travel by river and by river boat was too much.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes, and of course, today I wish they could start that the boat system for tourism. No, that would be great. Great trip down the way. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, we started with the Ruta Maya, so that's good.
Ruta Maya, the true Ruta Maya, let us clear that one since we are on that. The Ruta Maya that we see right now is actually a branch. The real Ruta Maya, I went to the spot in Bacalar and I followed on air by air, see what was that Ruta Maya. From Bacalar, it enters through Chaak Canal into the Rio Hondo, north of Corozal. It goes through the Rio Hondo, enters the Bay of Corozal, and you go around and you enter the new river that passes through Orange Rock. From Orange Rock, you go into the Hillbank Lagoon. From the Hillbank Lagoon, there is a cut there that puts you at Laboring Creek. From Laboring Creek, it enters into the Belize River by the village named Lemonal. From there, you go up to the river to San Ignacio, and then you go into the Macad to Tipu. That was the Maya, Ruta Maya. Tipu was actually the embarcadero of the Maya to be able to contact Petén through the Bay. You know, we have a lot of lagoons in Petén and so that was the old Ruta Maya. I am glad that the Harrison brothers, you know, and we must give them all credit that they saw it fit to establish a branch of the Ruta Maya, which is from here to Belize City. But the Mayas were the main thing. The main trade was with Yucatan, with the Yucatan Mayas, Mopan Mayas, the Itza Mayas in Petén.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Don Hector, take us on a journey from Roaring Creek down to the Belize City. But tell us about these villages. If you have any names coming out of these villages, maybe we should share it. Perhaps someone listening or watching this online documentary will actually connect that, oh, that's my great-great-grandfather. Were these villages to part and parcel of the mahogany camps, or how did they show up? I mean, did communities just settle because the water was there? Tell us something about these villages.
Well, some were all mahogany works, like Yongyal, Motomaro, and others down below. They were mahogany works, they used to call them in the what you call it. But before that, you need a little bit of folklore, a little bit of folklore of that river. And that's the famous Andrew Kane. Andrew Kane was one of the most famous men on that Belize Old River.
Andrew Kane.
Why? Andrew Kane used to live, according to the old folks, you know, I got it from the old, I was a representative for the very old folks that died already. Andrew Kane used to live in the morning from Mount Hope to Belize City. And in his dory, and by evening he was back with whatever you ask him to buy.
Oh,
Andrew Kane.
Money move.
I went and I tried to find out more. He said, all the man used was a paddle and a violin. This is folklore, you know. Like they're talking about Tataduhende. But this apparently has bearings. Because Andrew Kane left and went to PG. And I find out in PG, what was this Andrew Kane? Said the man used to bleach chicle in a dry weather, which is impossible. Bleach chicle in a dry weather. For the people that will hear me, will comment. And then one Chinese accused Andrew Kane of stealing gasoline from a new brand truck that he had. And they charged Andrew Kane in court. And the night, the Chinese New Bedford take her by himself, run down into the bank, but you know PG is high, into the sea. Andrew Kane, they said. Eventually, Andrew Kane died by fire. His little hut that he had burned up, and he was born there. This is just folklore, but of course, more can be found out. But let us go back to the villages. I will start with the first one, which will be Little Orange Rock.
Yeah.
That's Melado's farm. Many years ago, by the name of Tillit used to own that, but he sold it to Melado. From Little Orange Rock, you go to Mount Pleasant. That was a little settlement by the river. Mount Pleasant is that creek that where Harrison had a little place, entertainment place there.
Don Hector,
That was
just to let people know where we are. Little Orange Rock, is it just across the Hector Silva airstrip?
exactly.
Just across the road, right?
That is Orange Rock, but it was extensive,
Yes,
because they gave Belmopan about 2,000 square acres, 2,000 acres somewhere around between Mount Pleasant on the right. No, you can see the way by Nevadele entrance. The sign is where Belmopan ends. Mount Pleasant is also an important part for the Belmopanese that are hearing us. Mount Pleasant is actually a water catchment of all the water that drains from Belmopan. It enters into that low spot there, where some Chinese, I think, they were making tiles or whatever, and that enters through that Mount Pleasant Creek into the Belize River. That is the Mount Pleasant, known to us as Mount Pleasant Flats. Belmopan shouldn't have built there, but that's another story. We'll leave it. After Mount Pleasant, you had Nevadele, where the Bring Money used to live. Nevadele was Ben Stewart's farm. It was a well-developed farm with electricity and everything. It was a beautiful place. So after Mount Pleasant, you had Kitty Bank. Don't ask me why Kitty, because I don't know if it was a cat or a lady named Kitty, because they used to call young lady Kitty too. Then you had Cocos, a place they are farm named Cocos, coconut no doubt. Then you had Saturday Creek. After that, Saturday Creek was a settlement. Then you had Bull Run, another little settlement. Then you had Solomon's Place. Somebody named Solomon, and his farm was called Solomon's Place. Then you had Cotton Tree Bank. Well, that we know it more or less, Cotton Tree Bank. Then you had Rakdonda. Rakdonda, there's a huge stone almost in the middle of the river. That must have come from the space, so I don't know, because I don't see no high mountains around. But that's that huge rock there. Then after Rakdonda, you had Meditation, another place, settlement of old. Then you had More Tomorrow. That is still there. That belonged to Thomas Paslow. That was one of his logging works. More Tomorrow and Paslow Falls here by Bully Tree. That's where you find a girlfriend, Clarissa. We never mentioned Clarissa. Clarissa, a young lady, lived there named Clarissa Carter. Thomas Paslow, this 21-year-old young man, came from Paslow Falls where he lived, and he found this beautiful girl. It's a mixture, they say it's a brunette, Englishman daughter, and he fell in love and he married. And so Clarissa Carter went down to Belize City with Thomas Paslow when the Battle of St. George's Key. And so way on top by the old market that they dismantled, there was a big place there in Wexford building. That's where Paslow lived, and Clarissa Carter and Mrs. Yabra and others, they were there. 2 cannons were there, should in case the Spaniards run over. That, okay, well, that's another story. No, that's so many stories. And Dancing School Eddie. Dancing School Eddie. Who name it, I don't know, but it tells you something that maybe the Eddie there, which is the whirlpool, they did some dancing, I don't know. Then you had Joe White Bank. Then you had Pickery Guts. Remember, we had more worry up by Ontario there. Now, this is Pickery Guts. How people used to name their little places, no? Panama, another little settlement farm. Gale Creek. Beaver Dam. And that you all heard the story about Beaver Dam. Dam the beaver, no? Where the English one said, would they help put the sticks up on this creek, man? So the man said, the worker said that the ground mole. Ground mole eat up to farm on the bridge, no? So he said, what is ground mole? He said, something like a beaver. So they said, damn the beaver. So beaver, damn the beaver. To hell with them. The little animals there. Okay, so beaver dam. Castile. Oh, Castile is a Spanish name from Spain. I don't know what Castile. Then Coquerico Run. You know what's a Coquerico? Then birds will make hell of a nice in the morning. Coquerico. Then you had Baboon Eddy. Another place. Laboring Creek. Mariduman Creek. Monkey Run. Big Halova. And Big Falls. From Big Falls, we move into Cock Loft, L-O-F-T. Cock is a rooster. But they remove it for some food reason. But Cock Loft means where the rooster, they sit on those little, little sticks, so gallinero, we call it in Spanish. When they fall, each one take a little stick and stand up. That's a loft. But Cock Loft, the man named it, St. Paul, right side of it. St. Paul's Bank. Then Society Hall. Then Johnny Young Bank. Sutherland Bank. Double Head Cabbage. Rancho Dolores. Isabella Bank. Bamboo Patch. Lemonal. Those two are where some of those 14 men that went to vote to stay out. They come, one of them, I think, he come from Bamboo Patch, and I think two from Lemonal. And I heard this from people in Flowers Bank that told me who they were, no? But, then you have Jim Cotto, Hunts Bank, Bermudan Landing, Scotland Half Moon. I tried to find out why that name, Scotland and Half Moon. It's quite a large village now. Bamboo Patch, Lime Walk, Flowers Bank. Well, Flowers Bank is historical, no? You all know the story of where the 14th Negroes from Flowers Bank saved Belize. Bourne's Pen, May Pen, Black Creek, Grace Bank, Sand Hill, Jones Bank, Mexico Creek, Baker's Ranch, Double Run, Burrell Boom. From Burrell Boom now we will move towards Halova, Wilshire Bank, Hunters Trinidad Farm, where the retreats are held, for the Catholic Church Trinidad. That's Hunters Trinidad Farm, Mitchell Penn, Lord's Bank, Evans Bank, Gabriel Bank, Noguera Pine Ridge, where it ends to the river, Mitchell Place, Hofio's Mango Walk, Halova Boat, and into the Belize River branch. no Haloba branch where they say pass through Belize City. That's part of the Belize Old River. And I have tried to correct some of those historians that say, oh no, that's a, they call it a Haloba Creek. No, that's part of the Belize City. They are branch to the sea, that opening there. Then the other branch went into Belize City and has been cleaned over the century. So these are the complete 107 settlements on the Belize Old River, starting from Macabanc, right down, and starting from Arenal on the Mopan, Arenal, Benquebirro, San Jose, Socos, Clarissa, right down to Bullet Tree, into Branch Mode. So that is the inhabited Belize Old River. So those boats used to serve all these people that were there. Mostly mahogany workers, chicle workers, and farmers.
107 villages, you said, Don Hector?
107 settlements, I call it, because
settlements, not villages, settlements.
They were little places, maybe one family lived there.
Joe, do you have another question for Don Hector at this point? We need to break for our final ad break, and then we'll come back with our wrap up.
No, not really. I think that he covered a true idea of a layout of what the Belize River looks like when it comes to communities. So that's fantastic. I just want to add something here. If you ever come to San Ignacio and you want to read a little bit of the history of Paslo and Clarissa, you need to go to Clarissa Falls.
Yes.
The Galvez family have a restaurant there, and on their menu in the back, it was curious to me, they have a history of Clarissa. And Don Hector touched on it. She got married to Clarissa. According to this history, was a child of an Englishman, but of an African mother.
Right.
And then Mr. Paslow fell in love with her and then took her to Belize City. And they named that area because he was from there. He named it Clarissa.
Yes.
So,
but you know that Paslow had to buy her?
Well, I didn't.
She was owned by this slave master that lived by Corozal name, and in history, there is a master that was there, but they call it has a bite, something bite. I forget. I have it somewhere there. Right. But he also Pastor had to pay, I don't know, 300 pounds or minimum, to give her freedom, her release.
Wow.
Love does that.
Yes, that is the history of Clarissa.
Beautiful.
Arta, C-A-R-T-E-R.
Man, the history is just so rich. So much of it we don't know. Don Hector, this has been an awesome 3 days of the real history of Belize. The people who made Belize what it is today. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with our final segment and our wrap-up segment of the Galen Hour. Stay tuned.
The COVID-19 vaccination helps us to protect the most vulnerable.
Our choice to get vaccinated affects others.
It is a moral responsibility and an act of love for the entire community.
My name is Dorian Barrow. I am the Dean of the Faculty of Education at Galen University.
My name is Melanie Usher Donaldchek. I am the Administrative Assistant to the Office of the Provost at Galen University.
My name is Sherry Gibbs. I'm the Dean for the Faculty of Art, Science and Technology at Galen University.
My name is Dr. Eve Aird and I am the Provost of Galen University.
I got vaccinated because of my family, my colleagues, and my students.
Because I trust the science, but because I also want to protect myself, my family, my colleagues, students, and the community so that we can get out of this pandemic and get back to our lives.
I did it for my Galen family, my family at home, and I did it for you, Belize.
I got vaccinated for my husband, for my children, for my grandsons. I got vaccinated for Galen University, for my colleagues, for my students. I got vaccinated for Belize, for you.
Get vaxxed.
Wear your mask.
Wash your hands and watch your distance.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour and to our final segment of this episode. And really, this episode brings us to the end of a 3-show series talking about Cayo, Belmopan, and all the villages between Cayo right up to Belize City. It has been a pleasure being here with Don Hector and Joe Awe tonight. We want to give both Joe and Don Hector a few minutes to give their last words. And this has been a fantastic series, gentlemen. So please go ahead and your last words.
Yes, I am so happy that we continue with this program. This is the beginning of a very long road in the presenting the Belize story. That Belize story that was never published, but here we are giving it as a living part of our story. And there is so much more. We are just touching the tip of the iceberg. There's so much, but you all, it rests in your hands for this matter to be told, and eventually perhaps written in a book, because all what we are doing here is factual. No guesswork here, no maybe, no he said it and they said it, his story, their story. No, this is our story. And this is factual that can be proven anywhere. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Don Hector. I was so happy to have you as presenter on Belizean history from your very much from your experience. That's very hard to find today, and we have a lot of respect for that. So for the last 3 days, I have been sitting in the front of the class of the historian himself, who lived through all of these mechanical movement towards the development of what is now Belize as we know it today. Thank you very much, Galen University, for having me. I am very happy as I'm an alumni of the school, and I understand exactly what you're trying to do, and I can only give you gratitude for having me here, but also for sharing this to Belize and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for being such a fantastic co-host. I could not have done these last 3 shows without you, so I thank you. Don Hector, like you said, we've only touched the tip of the ice. We've only looked at Cayo to Belize. There's still so much more to our country. And I know you have all of that information stored right there in your head. Yes, you are our walking history book. Don Hector, we hope we get all that information shared through our Galen Hour. So we will definitely have to come back with a second series, and we'll keep our viewing audience informed. Thank you for joining us. The Galen Hour is a product of the Galen University. It focuses on academic excellence, sustainable development, and lifelong learning. See you next week, same time, same place. Good night.
On the lovely hills of